All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores. Sorry I've been gone for a couple of days, but now we're here to dive into everything that just went down in today's OTA practices, man. And of course, I'm gonna show y'all a lot of the clips as well. We have clips of Jaden Daniels, clips of Frankie Luvu, Bobby Wagner, the offensive line more specifically. Looks like Brandon Coleman at left guard, Josh Connolly at right tackle. To me, we're gonna dive into that. Joe Wood Jr. also spoke to the media before practice. He said he had a lot of really interesting quotes. Sounds like Javon Kinlaw, Payne, Jordan Magee, Quan Martin, and even Jeremy Reaves potentially having breakout years. He talked about how much he's been impressed with Trey Amos. We have so many things to talk about. Again, I'm going to show y'all the clips from the practice. We're going to break down everything, the quotes, and we're going to break down what we see in those clips. Also, we have a little clip montage of Laramie Tunsil working out. It's not with the Commanders. It's somewhere separate by himself with some other couple of people, but I'm still going to show that to y'all. And before we dive into everything, of course, I have a trivia question for you. The question is, at 32, who was the oldest player on the Commanders season-ending roster in 2022? Now, y'all know I hate these 2022 questions, but at least this one's kind of fun. I'm going to give y'all the answer to that at the end of the video, but before we get into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video. And let's go ahead and dive into this video immediately, man. Let's get it. Adam. And I mean, we have enough information from this practice, especially a lot of different position groups. Y'all know how I typically get, especially once we get to like training camp and things like that. We're going to go position group by position group. So first, I'm going to give y'all like an injury update. Thank goodness it's not extensive. There's just one notable name on it, and that's it. I'm not even entirely sure if this guy's even going to make the 53-man roster even fully healthy. But we're going to go quarterbacks, then we're going to go running backs, then we're going to go wide receivers, then tight ends, then offensive line, then D-line, then linebacker, then corner, then safety, and then if we have anything special teams or anything else after that. And again, we're going back to that training camp format. So some of these, I don't have things for every position group, just to let you know. I'll acknowledge the fact, we'll skip it and keep it pushing. And even just to start off, of course, Terry McLaurin, Marshon Lattimore, and Laramie Tunsil are not at voluntary OTAs this week. Just to go ahead and let y'all know, they are not there. Again, already did a full dive into that, talking about it for like 10 plus minutes just last week. So we're not going to do that again today. Just long story short, it doesn't really bother me as long as they're here. When mandatory minicamp start June 10th, I'm cool. I'm not really worried about it. It would be nice if somebody like Marshon Lattimore were here. Laramie Tunsil, I understand contract, trying to get that new one. And then he also did not show up to voluntary OTAs, even for the Texans, even when there were no contract disputes, or him potentially holding out for contract extension. Same thing even with Marshon Lattimore. Saints fans and reporters have said that he just did not show up to voluntary OTAs, even when he was 100% locked in and wasn't even working towards a new contract. Now Terry, he showed up at all of the other practices until like just as of last week. He was there for like phase 1 and half of phase 2. Then he missed half of phase 2, and now we're in phase 3. He's missing those as well. That's purely contract, and I fully understand that should have been done already, so I'm not mad at him. Laramie Tunsil, it makes sense as well. Lattimore, I'm not too mad at him. I just wish that he were here getting in all of the extra reps with the defensive backs around him, because one of the excuses that as a Marshon Lattimore defender, you know what I'm saying, I'm like, well, you know, he didn't have a full off season to learn the scheme. He was banged up, so he needs to catch up both mentally and physically. But you know, all of this time, ample opportunity to be here, gaining chemistry with the DBs, talking to Joe Wood Jr. and the secondaries coach, Tim Donatel, and all of those guys, to like get all of that stuff that I feel like he missed last year. I mean, he has plenty of opportunity to do it right now, and he's not doing it. So it's kind of hard to use that excuse from last year, but I still believe he's going to ball out for us, so I'm not worried about it. Again, it only becomes real news when either of those guys are not here June 10th. And then the fact that everybody else is here, even future Hall of Famer Bobby Wagner's here. It goes to show that this whole team is pretty much locked in. You just have these new guys, you know what I'm saying? Everybody else is here. You have Marshall Lattimore, who we got right before the trade deadline. We have Laramie Tunsil, who we traded for in the offseason. Those are the guys that are not here. Terry McLaurin, again, doesn't count because he's just not here for contract situations. But Laramie Tunsil and Marshall Lattimore just come from different cultures, I guess you could say. And, you know, typically the veterans aren't at voluntary OTAs, the teams that they come from, whereas we're used to guys being here no matter what. We had 100% attendance last year, so that's why it's kind of weird for us and notable, but a lot of teams, veterans aren't there. Myles Garrett just got paid the most money by a defensive player in NFL history, and he wasn't even at OTAs. This is just something that a lot of teams culturally don't necessarily prioritize like we try to. Now, moving on, you have this clip of Laramie Tunsil right here working out. It's not with the Commanders. I really want to emphasize that, but he's working out. And okay, man, I mean, that guy looks ready. I mean, it's only been so much you could take from a random clip montage to make the player look really good. I mean, especially the guys that he's blocking against are like trainers. They're not even NFL players. They're not defensive linemen. But I'm really confident that Laramie Tunsil's going to come in and ball out. He's still a top 3, at worst top 5 tackle in the NFL. I think he's going to come in here, but I'm not worried about the penalty situation he had last year. I'm not worried about him not being focused or not being 100% physically ready by the time he does get here, potentially starting June 10th and things like that. And if anything, I'll take it. As a content creator, I'm happy. That's going to be pretty cool to finally see Laramie Tunsil in a real Commanders jersey. You know what I'm saying? Like, instead of these jersey swaps that I'm having to use in my graphics and things like that, we have yet to actually see Laramie Tunsil in a Commanders jersey. That's just going to be cool June 10th. First of all, to start the mandatory mini camps, but then potentially we'll finally see Lattimore and Tunsil with the team, and I think that's gonna be huge. I think that's gonna be like a whole nother wave of excitement that we have to look forward to, rather than if they were already here at OTAs, it wouldn't be as exciting next week. So, you know, I like the fact that we're getting things in waves. I mean, we literally went from like draft to new stadium to the 2027 draft to all of these things. Every week it seems to be something really exciting, and now we have something that, this week was OTAs. We finally get to see the guys practice. All these clips I'm showing y'all and things like that. They're speaking to the media. And then next week is going to be Laramie Tunsil and Marshall Lattimore finally pull up. So I'm having fun, man. Every week is something cool with me. And then also, Joe Wood Jr. talked about Marshall Lattimore specifically in his press conference before practice. He said that he has not been with the team during the offseason program. In other words, he is, of course, not here right now. So he already let y'all know that before we even got to the practice field to see that he wasn't there. But he said that the staff has been in constant communication with the 4-time Pro Bowler. So everything seems to be good. Like, there's nothing to panic about. He's not here. I'm pretty sure the Commanders have asked him why they've been talking to him. And it's just probably, like I already said, just I don't pull up to voluntary OTA situation, and he'll be there, mandatory mini camp, no holdout for real, for real. And then you also have Wizards coach Brian Keefe, or Keefe, I hope that's how you pronounce that. I have zero idea how to pronounce that last name. I apologize. But he's out there at Commanders OTAs, standing next to Adam Peters and Mark Klaus. That's really cool, man. Hey, shouts out to the DMV area, man, really sticking together. I remember like last offseason, we had like different like players from like the baseball team pulling up. Our football players are always pulling up to the hockey games the last few weeks and things like that. I love that. You have Dan Quinn, those guys, and Jaden Daniels pulling up to the WNBA games and all of that type of stuff, vice versa. I love how communal all of that is, man. I absolutely love that. Now, moving on to the injuries, we technically only have one injury update, and I haven't even specifically heard what the injury is, or even necessarily if it actually really is an injury. We just know that Michael Gallup was at the Commanders facility but did not practice. Typically, that means that he's hurt in some way to where he's still there. He wants to participate mentally, but it's just something physically is holding him back. It's probably just over an abundance of caution. But again, like I said before the intro, I'm not even 100% sure that Michael Gallup's going to make the final 53-man roster, even if he is 100% healthy. So, I mean, this isn't necessarily like a big, oh no, huge setback. What are the Commanders going to do in 2025 without this guy? But, I mean, I still want Michael Gallup to go out there and show that he can. I mean, he's one of the very few 1,000-yard receivers that are on this roster right now. Like, so it would be lovely to get him back fully healthy and fully committed to football, because, you know, he's retired before, went over to the Raiders, decided this just isn't it, and then quit football, and now he's with the Commanders the year after that. We'll see if he is mentally focused, mentally ready, but also right now, we got to worry about him being physically ready as well. But I'm rooting for him. I want Michael Gallup. I think his ceiling is crazy. Like, we're already talking about, of course, Terry, Debo, Luke McCaffrey, Noah Brown, and Jalen Lane as your 5 locks. If we keep 6 receivers, that sounds like KJ Osborne, Michael Gallup, and even that undrafted free agent, you know, Ja'Cory Brooks from Louisville. You know what I'm saying? All of those guys are fighting for one roster spot potentially right now. And I like Michael Gallup a lot, but I'm just not as confident as a lot of y'all out there that just assume he's making the roster. I don't think it's that boy Ja'Cory Brooks is tough. And don't forget, KJ Osborne is just only a couple of years removed from being a really good wide receiver too in the NFL. And again, Michael Gallup is one of the only 1,000-yard receivers on roster. So everybody has their reason why I feel like they may end up getting the spot. But that's good. That's a good thing. That's healthy competition. You know what I'm saying? We've typically been like, I mean, I guess we got 1, 2, maybe 3 locks for the receiver room. The last 3 or 4 are kind of just up for grabs. We'll see what happens. Now we're talking about that 6th guy, even maybe that 7th, even if we keep 7th, being like a real serious competition to see who ends up winning it. Now moving on to the quarterbacks. You already know we got to start with some Jaden Daniels clips, man. And it's always nice to just see Jaden Daniels running around and throwing the ball, man. His throwing motion is so smooth. The spiral is so tight, man. That boy different, man. That boy Jaden Daniels is different, man. I'm just so happy to be where we are. And he's always having some type of fun. So I always like the fact that they make sure they record him even outside of just football stuff. And then you also have this 1 minute and 30-second clip uploaded by Ben Standig. Shouts out to him, showing all 4 quarterbacks throwing the ball. Just mind you, you have Jaden Daniels, you have Marcus Mariota as the immediate backup. Then you have Josh Johnson and Sam Hartman, whichever order you want to put those last 2 in. Again, like I've already said, I feel like when in doubt, you keep Josh Johnson, because Sam Hartman was on the practice squad all year and no team ever even thought about stealing them from us. So if you want to have the best chance of having all 4 somewhere revolved around your team all season, you have a better chance of stowing away Sam Hartman on the practice squad and nobody taking him than stowing away Josh Johnson. I'm rooting for Sam Hartman. I want him to be our 3rd quarterback, but he's going to have to take a leap forward, because as of right now today, he's not better than Josh Johnson. And I'm not saying Josh Johnson's a great quarterback or anything like that. There's a reason he bounced from team to team, but still, there's the fact that he bounces from team to team, and Sam Hartman is not bouncing from team to team. Other teams just looked at him on our practice squad and was like, yeah, you can stay there. We have no reason to steal him from y'all. So I'm rooting for Sam Hartman. Hopefully he takes like a step forward and he is our 3rd quarterback. He's our inactive quarterback on game days and things like that, and he's actually on the final 53-man roster. But as of right now, I think today Josh Johnson has it just by seniority and all of that type of stuff, but we'll see. But again, I'm rooting for Sam Hartman, but most importantly, just seeing the quarterbacks throw the ball, and that's always fun, man. I really like our group of quarterbacks, man. Marcus Mariota has proven to be arguably the best backup quarterback in the entire NFL, and Jaden Daniels is not only a franchise quarterback, which I've been looking for since I've been alive. I've never had a franchise quarterback in my lifetime of being a Burgundy and Gold fan. Arguably, we really never really have, and instead of going, you got to go all the way back to maybe Sammy Baugh, I guess, because even when we were winning Super Bowls, we won 3 Super Bowls in less than a 10-year span with 3 different quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels feels like this is going to be the first time we've had like a Aaron Rodgers situation where he's our starting quarterback 10, 15 plus years. Tom Brady, I guess, is a better example of that. Like, I feel like we finally have one of those. Not only is he a franchise quarterback, he's a top 5 quarterback already just going into the beginning of his 2nd season. And I think he'll have plenty of opportunities this season to show that he's even better than the 5th best quarterback. I think he can, you know, catapult up into that top 3 discussion. I mean, especially since he goes head to head with Justin Herbert. He already beat Joe Burrow last year. He's going to go head to head with Bo Nix and all of those other rookies. Michael Penix, well, sophomores now, and Caleb Williams again. But he's also going to go head to head against Kansas City Chiefs Pat Mahomes. And if he outduels him, I don't want to hear nothing from anybody about Jaden Daniels being at least a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. And then also moving on, and shouts out to Rio Robinson, because I mean, I completely agree with the tweet. It's hilarious, but it's so true. He said people don't understand that we've had quarterbacks here in the past that were terrible in practice sessions against air, mind you. throwing the ball to God at OTAs. And then shouts out to Sidonia Ave at KMB because he said those Carson Wentz and Heineke OTAs were a disaster, man. It's a complete difference now. Huge difference from what we're used to. And just in case if you want to see some more Jaden Daniels throws, here you go. Provided by NBC4 Sports on Twitter, man. Shouts out to Jaden Daniels hitting them deep shots down there. I'm liking what I'm seeing, man. That boy Jaden Daniels looks comfortable. Even though there's 4 quarterbacks throwing at the same time, they're making sure they're focusing on Jaden Daniels and the guys that he's throwing to. I'm down for that, man. The other quarterbacks are cool, but none of them are Jaden Daniels, man. You're even seeing some dump offs to running backs and things like that. I am super duper excited about what this season has to hold for us, man. Speaking of running backs catching passes, man, I can't wait to see some Jacory stuff, man. We didn't get any Jacory stuff from today's practice, but I'm hoping next practice, the next open practice that we have, more than likely we'll have to wait till June 10th. Even then, we'll see if that's even open to the media to show us all of these clips and things like that. Hopefully we start to get more Jacory clips. I'm telling you, he's going to be one of the preseason MVPs. And I'm not even just talking about from the Commanders. I'm talking about just general out of NFL. Like when teams have their backups out there, this backups versus backups, Jacory is going to show you that he is on a different tier than all of these other backups. He's on a different tier than all of these other rookies, especially these late round draft pick rookies. Now, speaking of running backs, we don't have anything to show except for Brian Robinson having a little bit of fun before practice. I love the fact that he's in high spirits because, you know, there's always these debates about Brian Robinson's not good enough. He's average. He's below average to some people and things like that. And you even have guys like me that's just really rooting for Jacory to step up and be our lead back. But I love the fact that Brian Robinson looks like he's not letting social media or any of that other talk bother him. He's in high spirits. He's ready to go. And I'm hoping us potentially having a top 5 offensive line in the NFL finally unleashes him. My problem with Brian Robinson, I forgot the stat. I think he had like 0.1 yards over expected per carry this past season, which means that he literally only basically gets you the yardage that the offensive line blocks for you. Now, granted, the offensive line is a top 5 offensive line and they block better. Of course, he's naturally going to be really good. My problem with him is that he doesn't maximize every carry. He literally is going to get you with the offensive line blocks for you. I want a guy that's going to go out there and the offensive line blocks 5, but he gets you 20. And I think Jacory is the only running back on our entire roster right now that has the potential to do that. I'm rooting for Brian Robinson, but there's definitely a ceiling there. Now, moving on to the wide receivers. Of course, you can see in this clip, you have like Luke McCaffrey going out there and catching the pass and things like that. Then, of course, next up, you know what I'm saying, you got our boy Jalen Lane. I love how he tracks the ball. It looks so natural. Luke McCaffrey's catch looked pretty good too, but I don't know, Jalen Lane just has a different look to it, man. Then you have, I believe that was Noah Brown out there catching the next one. Then you have Deebo Samuel. He didn't even have his helmet on, but that was a great job tracking that ball. I don't know who threw that terrible pass. I'm assuming that was probably like a trainer or something, but boy, that throw was awful. Yeah, I think that was a trainer, and the Deebo Samuel had the like super duper tracker. Hey, shouts out to him, man. That was an elite tracking job done there because that pass was awful, man. And looking back at the clip, yeah, like Luke McCaffrey kind of cheated it. Like he turned around and then he went and got the ball like this. I love the fact that Jalen Lane is so comfortable catching the ball like this to where he doesn't turn his whole body around. He just lets the ball fall right over his shoulders and he catches it in front of his chest instead of contorting his whole body to turn around. I mean, Luke McCaffrey, a catch is still a catch, but I like Jalen Lane's catch a little bit more because you can just see that he has better ball tracking ability there. And that's like the thing that really separated Deshaun Jackson from other just speedy wide receivers in the NFL. His ball tracking ability is elite. I think Jalen Lane shows you a little bit of that as well. And then again, shouts out to Deebo Samuel for somehow tracking whatever that wobbler was, that duck that somebody threw out there. And then also, speaking of Noah Brown, shouts out to Seawall Sports because she tweeted at 12:52 p.m. It's great to see Noah Brown back out there with a whole bunch of dots afterwards. I think people are going to be surprised with how good Noah Brown is for us this upcoming season. I mean, he already led until he got hurt. Before he got hurt, he led the NFL in forced pass interferences by wide receivers out of the entire NFL, more than any other receiver in the entire NFL. And I think he's going to really explode onto the scene, especially now that you're going to have defenses literally having to focus hours and days on game planning against how do we stop Deebo Samuel. Noah Brown's going to be able to feast off of that alone, let alone the fact that Jalen Lane is going to help take the lid off of the defense and keep defenses honest. So Noah Brown's going to be able to get everything underneath that he wants, man. I'm telling you, Noah Brown, it's hard to say breakout season because I feel like he already had a pretty good season last year, and him being our wide receiver through, well, I guess when we're talking about pure wide receivers, he's our pure wide receiver too. But as far as weapons go, because that's when you start to include Deebo Samuel and Jalen Lane, I think he'll be like our wide receiver 3 or 4, honestly. So it's hard to kind of say like breakout year, but I think Noah Brown's going to be even better this upcoming season than he was last year. And last season he was pretty good. And then he even had an interview with NBC4 Sports after practice, and they caught up with him and asked him about like his thoughts on the addition of Deebo Samuel, to that point about like Deebo Samuel's going to make Noah Brown's job easier and things like that. If you want to go check that out, that was uploaded by NBC4 Sports. I don't want to like steal all of their content and upload that as well. Just go on Twitter and check that out. It's like a whole minute 30 clip. Also, I like the fact that Doug Williams took some time today to specifically talk to the wide receivers, which is interesting because he's a quarterback, you know, and typically he's on like the you know, player relations and player development side of things for the Commanders right now. A lot of the off the field stuff, like giving them resources. If you need this, you need that, you know, that's what he's typically doing. It's interesting that he like spoke to the receivers. You have all of the receivers huddled up around him and he's giving them some type of advice, some type of game, some type of coaching, tutelage. I like it. I mean, as many veterans involved with the team as possible. I love it. As many Redskins legends as possible, please. I love the fact that we had B. Mitch coaching up the returners and Jalen Lane last week, and you have Doug Williams helping with the receivers this week. I'll always take it and be happy about that. Then you also have Luke McCaffrey. After practice, he said that it's a big advantage going into year second with things moving slower. Now, shouts out to JP Finley. He has the whole 51-second clip of him, you know, talking about it. But I just felt like that was enough. Luke McCaffrey feels like the game is getting slower, and that's always the one sign that you look for when it comes to, is this rookie finally going to take that step next year going into his second year of where it doesn't look like he's still really raw. It doesn't look like the NFL is still overwhelming to him. You look at that. Like, you look for, is the game slowing down for the guy? And Luke McCaffrey saying that unprovoked is amazing, man. So Luke McCaffrey, hey man, if we could get something out of third round pick Luke McCaffrey in 2025, things should get really interesting, man. Because right now, I think at best, he's your 6th or maybe even 7th wide receiver, best wide receiver on your roster right now. The reason he's a lock is because he's a 2024, just last year, third round pick. They're not going to cut him already. But if you ask me, if we needed to go win a game tomorrow, who's better between Luke McCaffrey, Michael Gallup, KJ Osborne, and maybe even Ja'Cory Brooks? I don't know. Like Luke McCaffrey, I don't know where I rank him in there, but it's definitely not at the top. And so I love Luke McCaffrey. I'm rooting for him. I love his talent. And the fact that things are slowing down for him could be huge because, one of the things that I really love about Luke McCaffrey is his ceiling. I already showed y'all the relative athletic scores. When you compare him to Christian McCaffrey, whether it be at wide receiver or running back, you make both of them wide receivers, you make both of them running backs, he still comes out as the better athlete. His ceiling is insane. The athleticism is ridiculous. Once he gets the nuanced things down, and that's why us hiring Wes Welker is like a guy that's going to help the receivers with a lot of the nuanced stuff, literally everything that Luke McCaffrey's missing, which again, you got to give him credit. The guy just switched to wide receiver 2 years before we drafted him, or the year before, something like that. He's very new to the position in general, but the elite athleticism, the ball of clay that he is, I think he has the potential to become a really good receiver. For me, it's just when. It's not necessarily an if, it's just, are we going to get it in 2025, or do we got to wait till 2026 for it to happen? But I think the talent is definitely there. He could just be a late bloomer. Hopefully he blooms sooner rather than later though. Then moving on to the tight ends, nothing to really talk about there. So we're going to go ahead and skip to the offensive line, which I feel like is one of the most important parts of this video, man. I'm really excited to talk about this and show y'all this, especially because Mitch Tisler, of course, big offensive line guy, he was over there watching the offensive line drills. Like, while everybody's split up doing their different drills with the different position groups, of course Mitch Tisler's going to be with the offensive line. And as of right here, you see Josh Connolly doing his drills with the bags and things like that. The footwork, the athleticism looks so smooth, elite, easy. It's beautiful to watch, man. That boy Josh Connolly gonna be a problem. I'm telling y'all right now, week 1 starting right tackle, Pro Bowler sooner rather than later. I'm warning you. I'm telling you right now, top 5 offensive line. We're gonna talk about that at the end of the offensive line portion of this video. But I also want to point out the fact that you had Josh Connolly working at right tackle with offensive lines coach Bobby Johnson watching. Like, you see, there's 3 offensive linemen, and Josh Connolly is the one that's furthest to the right. Tells you everything you need to know. But that's not just it. You have Brandon Coleman doing some guard stuff in practice. He's working with the guards, doing guard things. You see that it's 2 offensive linemen, and he's the one to the right. It's the left side of the offensive line, so you have like a number 51 left tackle, and Brandon Coleman's the left guard in this drill. But that's not all. Listen to me sounding like a salesman, you know what I'm saying? But now you have Trent Scott in this drill working with Brandon Coleman, which is interesting because Trent Scott is technically a tackle, but he played way better at guard last year, replacing Samuel Cosme in that playoff win over the Detroit Lions. That playoff, well, we whooped them boys, but it got bad. But either way, the most important thing is that Trent Scott stepped in at guard way better than I ever saw him play tackle. So maybe they consider him a backup interior offensive lineman, and he's working with Brandon Coleman. And it just seems like, to me, this clip, it just has 2 guards practicing with one another right now. But then, even more importantly, moving on, here's this clip of Trent Scott as your left tackle, Brandon Coleman as your left guard, and then clearly your starting center is Tyler B. Oddish. There you go. Brandon Coleman officially confirmed to be your starting left guard. Again, notice that Brandon Coleman is the left guard in this clip, and I know it's only June 4th, but this is now multiple days of Brandon Coleman strictly practicing at left guard. Sounds like the starting offensive line, when healthy, left to right. Laramie Tunsil at left tackle, Brandon Coleman left guard, Tyler Biotish center, Samuel Cosme right guard, again when healthy, and then Josh Connolly as your right tackle like we've been seeing in these clips. And like I've been screaming since even before the draft, when I would talk about why y'all shouldn't be surprised if the Commanders end up drafting Josh Connolly in the first round instead of an edge rusher or a cornerback, I've been telling y'all Brandon Coleman left guard, Josh Connolly right tackle. I said that even before we drafted him. You can go check the tapes. I've been trying to tell y'all since early April that that's something that is quite likely to happen, and that seems like what it's gonna be. I'm telling you, the most talented combination of an offensive line that we could throw out there is Coleman at left guard and Connolly at right tackle. And then Mitch Tisler, shouts out to my boy Big Doug over there. Make sure you follow him, subscribe to him on YouTube and his show with George Carmi and all of those guys. He even asked Mitch Tisler straight up, what about Brandon Coleman? Mitch Tisler answered, almost exclusively of left guard with Allegretti at right guard. So it sounds like Allegretti is just starting right guard, potentially as of what we know from right now. It's early June. But if we had to play a game tomorrow with Samuel Cosme not healthy, it looks like Allegretti would be a starting right guard instead of Andrew Wiley, potentially. Who knows? But then again, it sounds like the main thing is Brandon Coleman has almost exclusively been a left guard so far in off-season practices. And maybe things change at mandatory minicamps June 10th. Maybe things change by training camp. Maybe things change by preseason. But as of right now, Brandon Coleman is your starting left guard. And then shouts out to Eric Sully over there at Commanders Realm. I completely agree. He said this is the most confident I've been in a Washington offensive line that I can recall. Even with Cosme likely sidelined to start the year, it just doesn't feel like a group that needs to be flagged as a concern. Lots of depth and versatility, and I would add really good starting power. Tyler Biotish is a Pro Bowl center. Samuel Cosme, when healthy, is a Pro Bowl right guard, and Laramie Tunsil is a perennial Pro Bowl left tackle. I think Josh Connolly has easily Pro Bowl potential at right tackle. He's the Abdul Carter eraser. And then Brandon Coleman, I feel like ultimately his highest ceiling is at left guard. He played really well at left tackle last year, though. He erased the NFL sack leader Trey Hendrickson from that game. He did a pretty good job, even though he had a lot of help with chipping against Myles Garrett when we played the Browns. That guy's moving to left guard to potentially be even better than he was at tackle. This offensive line is easily, I feel like, the best offensive line that the Commanders, that the Redskins, anybody, Washington football team have put together probably in my lifetime. Because again, I wasn't alive for the Hogs and things like that. I feel like this is the most confident in just pure talent that I have on that, and depth as well. Nate Herbig, Nick Allegretti, and Andrew Wiley as backups are insane. So I'm really happy about what we have going on. Now moving on to the defensive side of the ball. Of course, we're starting with defensive line, and Joe Wood Jr. was asked about which players have stood out so far this offseason, and he just straight up said Daron Payne. He said that he's been really pleased with his work and his approach, and noted that Daron Payne leads by example and is establishing a strong leadership role for the team right now. I love that. I mean, he said that the guy that also has been looking really good is Daron Payne as well. So not even just a leadership standpoint, but physically as well. He said, quote, "I've been really pleased. He is leading by example. This year, you can see him taking that leadership role to the next step," unquote, and said that he's really stood out in practices as a really talented defensive lineman. He also said that Daron Payne looks in shape and is really focused, and said that there's been times where he's had to tell Daron Payne to ease up some of the time, and said that he's been really impressed with how he's looked in practices. And man, I'm telling you, if we can get a breakout season from Daron Payne, man, we are cooking with grease. I mean, mind you, I think he's the most expensive player on our entire team right now on a per year bet. Like, who's taking up the most cap space in 2025? I think it's literally Daron Payne #1. Now, that's before Terry McLaurin and potentially even a Laramie Tunsil extension right now. But that boy, man, we need him to ball out. You're getting paid the most. We need that, like, please. But also, man, you know Daron Payne has a propensity to ball out in contract years. Now, technically, he has 2 years left on his deal, but none of the money, I believe, is guaranteed in 2026 next year. And we could pretty much do to him after this season what we did to Jonathan Allen after last season. Cut him, no ties, no dead cap, completely just get rid of him, and we don't have to worry about paying him any money, him taking up any cap space for us and things like that. So technically, this is a contract year, a prove-it year for Daron Payne, and you know how he got last time when he had a prove-it year. Double-digit sacks. We'll see if he can do that this year. And then Joe Wood Jr. also said that not only Daron Payne, but Quan Martin as well have been laser focused this spring. But of course, we'll talk about Quan Martin when we get to the safety group. Just wait for that. But I'm telling you right now, if Daron Payne balls out like he tends to do in a contract year, this defensive line will actually be really scary. I mean, Javon Kinlaw, Eddie Goldman, and Dedrick Wise are already going to be better than what we had on the defensive line last year. There's a reason you went and got those guys in the offseason. But then Johnny Newton is also naturally going to take a step forward, finally, with him having a fully offseason and training camp to get better. You know, remember, he missed all of last offseason, all of it. Training camp, everything as a rookie with the injuries that was holding him back and things like that. Like, he's finally going to get a fully healthy offseason. So just from that alone, our defensive line is going to be better. And then also, Joe Wood Jr. pointed out the fact that our defensive line front will be bigger personnel-wise on first and second down. With additions like Javon Kinlaw and Eddie Goldman, will create better matchups against 12 and 13 personnels. And I think that's going to play a huge role in our ability to stop the run. That's why Eddie Goldman was, like, sneakily one of our best signings in the offseason. If he doesn't retire again, and if he's focused on playing high-level football, I'm telling you right now, Eddie Goldman used to be like a potential Pro Bowler over there with the Bears back when he was balling out. I don't know what happened. I haven't interviewed him myself, but he quit on football twice. If he doesn't quit on football now, he's going to be a huge part as to why our run defense is way better going into this season. And then Joe Wood Jr. also said that adding size and length were goals this offseason, and that Javon Kinlaw epitomizes that approach, and also said that Trey Amos is the same thing secondary wise. Trey Amos is the size and length that they want to add to now. They're going against these bigger, really fast receivers, and they have Lattimore and Trey Amos that can deal with them instead of it just only being Lattimore. And then again, we already saw the season Lattimore had last season, but I'm thinking he's going to bounce back and ball out. And then he also pointed out the fact that Javon Kinlaw has the size and bend to line up anywhere on the line of scrimmage. Okay. Anywhere on the line of scrimmage. So we're talking about 3-tech, we're talking about 5-tech, we're talking about defensive tackle edge, we're talking about Javon Kinlaw being like this chess piece to where an offensive line and offense never knows where he's going to be lined up any given snap. And I love that, especially since he has the athleticism to do so. He has the speed, explosion, and quickness to play edge really well. He has the strength and just brute force and physicality to play defensive tackle very well as well. So I'm really excited about that. Joe Wood Jr. said that they'll use Javon Kinlaw all over the line. He said that it'll be tough for tight ends to block him if and when he's outside. I completely agree. He'll blow up a tight end. Don't ever ask a tight end to block Javon Kinlaw. And he can also be a problem inside. He said, quote, he's an intriguing young man to work with, unquote. I'm really excited about Javon Kinlaw's stock in this defense, man. I'm telling you, he's going to live up to that contract. I'm telling you that right now. Again, got that video loading. I promise y'all. I've been working on it, man. I've been watching film and all of that, getting my notes together and stats. I'm telling y'all. And then Joe Wood Jr. also said that he's looking to see who steps up in the pass rush, but he feels like the roster up front is just better, both in terms of rushing the passer and stopping the run, and that it's basically just going to figure itself out, that we don't necessarily need to go get like this elite edge talent because they'll figure it out just from the guys that they already have, and also better scheme, all of that type of stuff. But I'm going to talk about that really soon again when we get to the linebacker part of this. And then he also said that he predicts somebody will outproduce what is expected of them in sack numbers, just like Fowler did last season. Also said that the run defense and pass rush will be better, but that's a good point. I've been screaming about the fact that Dante Fowler had only like 5 sacks with the Dallas Cowboys in 2023, then came to the Commanders at 10.5 sacks in 2024. I think that's more scheme and the situation around him than the individual player. Not to take anything away from Dante Fowler, but I don't think when people say, oh, we lost Dante Fowler, that means we lost a 10.5 sack guy last year. I don't think it's as dire of a need and a hole left on the roster as a lot of people think, when all you're looking at is just the surface stats of, oh man, the Commanders pass rush already wasn't elite, now you just lost the only double-digit sack guy. Don't look at it like that. It's far more scheme. Speaking of, moving on to the linebackers, we're going to revisit this very soon, but here you get to see soon-to-be future Hall of Famer Bobby Wagner in OTAs, taking drills very seriously, already going into his, I don't even know what double-digit season this is, but he's taking voluntary OTAs this seriously. And I love the fact that he does that too, because he's setting an example. Like, I'm a Hall of Famer. Y'all haven't done nothing to prove that y'all are anything. Y'all Hall of Famer, Pro Bowler, whatever. I'm a future Hall of Famer. First ballot, automatic. You can go ahead and give me the gold jacket now. And I'm taking things this seriously, playing with this much energy in early June voluntary OTA practices. If he's doing that, imagine how everybody around him feels. Well, like, if he's doing that, I definitely got to do it because I have way more to prove than he does. Now let's revisit this defensive line situation, because you have Frankie Luvu working on some pass rush moves right here. And I love it too, because, you know, Frankie Luvu last year, typically when he rushed the passer, it was up like the A gap more times than not. So it wasn't even like he necessarily needed pass rush moves. It was more so great timing off the snap, or, you know, knowing exactly when and where to blitz, and you know, just shooting up the gap with elite explosion and quickness and things like that. It wasn't necessarily, oh, I need to work on counters and clubs and swim moves and stuff like that. He wasn't doing a lot of that last year. It seems like he's really working on doing that this year, and you can see in the drill, it looks like he's the edge rusher in that drill. And I really want to emphasize that, because it sounds like Frankie Luvu's going to be more of an edge rusher role, which takes me back to my main point from earlier. Between Javon Kinlaw being used everywhere and Frankie Luvu probably taking even more of a pass rush role from the outside than he already did last year, this is why they didn't go all in on getting an elite edge talent via the draft or trade. They, and I super agree with them, think that our pass rush will just naturally be better than last year, just from adding Kinlaw and Dietrich Wise, and Jacob Martin will be this year's Dante Fowler. They both had around like 5 sacks the year before they joined the Commanders, and I feel like it's more scheme than the individual, like I've already said, and especially when it came to Fowler getting 10.5 sacks last year. And Jacob Martin, if anything, is a younger and more athletic version of Dante Fowler, so why can't he do it? And on top of that, with our secondary being way better than what it was last year, we'll probably start to get more coverage sacks. You know, sacks where the quarterback's holding on to the ball because no receiver's open, and now the defensive line gets to him. And on top of that, with a way better run defense, which I feel like going from dead last year to being like top 10 run defense this year. I feel like we've done that much to improve that aspect of our defense. Teams will be in more third and longs rather than third and shorts against us. So now our guys can just pin their ears back and know for a fact when this ball is snapped, all I got to do is get to the quarterback. I don't have to second guess it and think maybe I need to stay disciplined in my gap. No, I need to use every ounce of my athleticism getting after the quarterback. Nothing else. No hesitating, no second guessing, no trying to two gap, no trying to set the edge. I'm trying to get past the tackle and get to this quarterback, and that is it. And also on top of that, Jordan Magee potentially taking a larger role in the off-ball linebacker group. That's going to free up Frankie Luvu to get after the quarterback more often just off of that alone. Which takes me to the point, Joe Wood Jr. talked about Jordan Magee in his press conference before practice. He said, we had a package that we wanted to run with him last year. With the knee injury, we weren't able to. We want to get more 3 linebacker packages instead of nickel to shore up versus the run. He's had a great call of command, and he's learned a lot from Bobby Wagner. I love to hear that, man. I'm telling y'all right now, for those of y'all that didn't notice last season, Jordan Magee, when healthy, really flashed at times. The problem is just him staying healthy. But remember, he was arguably the single most athletic linebacker out of the entire 2024 draft class. And I believe there is something to us having 3 linebackers on the field more often to help against the run. And it is extremely helpful when that third linebacker can cover at a high level, especially when that is neither Bobby Wagner nor Frankie Luvu's strong suits right now, especially at this point in Wagner's career. Jordan Magee has the potential to be our best outsider, like Payne Medrano, who we don't know if he's a safety or a linebacker. Out of all of the guys that we know for a fact on Sundays is going to play linebacker for us, Jordan Magee is our best coverage linebacker, especially ceiling-wise, and that's going to be huge because, again, when you're in 3 linebacker sets, that makes you better at stopping the run, but now your third linebacker can also cover. You know, when we're going in the nickel because we can't cover, that leaves us susceptible against the run because now we only have 2 linebackers on the field. You have a linebacker that can stop the run and cover. That changes everything. Jordan Magee is potentially going to be that for us. And then also, speaking of Payne Medrano, Joe Wood Jr. talked about him specifically. He said that he's a unique player because of his background as a receiver. And he also added that they're really testing him to see what he can be for the defense. He literally said they're trying to figure out if rookie Payne Medrano is more like a Frankie Luvu, off-ball linebacker, or more of a Jeremy Chin, safety. And Frankie Luvu specifically because Payne Medrano also, you see in some of his like film at UCLA last year that he'll rush the passer off the edge as well. So he's, that's really interesting. That's an interesting discussion. Do you feel like he's more of a Frankie Luvu or a Jeremy Chin? And I love the fact that this coaching staff is trying to see both, just to see like which one. Because like I said, I think Jeremy Chin is a very favorable comp for him. I think Nick Amawari and Jeremy Chin and Payne Medrano are all elite athletes in the same tier. The only way I separate them is that Jeremy Chin and Nick Amawari are a little bit more explosive and quick, but Payne Medrano is way better at changing directions than both of those other 2 names. He has way better hips, way better footwork, to where when it comes to agility, turning around and having the backpedal and things like that, I prefer Payne Medrano than those other 2 guys. I know Jeremy Chin, really talented safety that did a lot of great things for us last year. Nick Amawari, elite ceiling and at South Carolina last year. But Payne Medrano, even as a 6th round draft pick, hey man, I'm telling you, don't sleep. And then Joe Wood Jr. even emphasized that, it's really hard to tell right now, but once we get the pad-ons, we'll really start to see, is he more Luvu or more Chin? I'm really intrigued by that, man, because you picked up Will Harris to technically replace Jeremy Chin in the offseason. But if Payne Medrano can step up and be that for us, that would be insane value out of the 6th round. Insane. Now, moving on to the corners, the only thing that I have for you is that Joe Wood Jr. had a lot of praise for Amos. Like I said earlier, they talked about the defense getting bigger, stronger, and longer. And he even emphasized the fact that Trey Amos is one of those. Not even just the defensive line, Trey Amos as well. But then he also said that Trey Amos is, quote, ahead of the curve, unquote, and doing very well this offseason. So it sounds like he's already better than what they expected when they got him in the 2nd round, feeling like they probably should have even taken him in the 1st round just in case. And even with them being that high on him, they feel like he's even further ahead than they expected when they drafted him. Insane stuff. I'm telling you, Trey Amos, hey man, loading up Defensive Rookie of the Year campaign, I'm telling you right now. Now moving on to the safeties. And here's Quan Martin working on his peanut punch. And Joe Wood Jr. was very complimentary about him in his press conference before practice and said that he has the chance to be one of the best safeties in the NFL, man. I love to hear that. And I also love the fact that in this clip, we're working on creating more turnovers. I absolutely love that. We're really focusing on, even as early as June 4th, we got to create more turnovers. And even if it's not, typically a secondary player, you think about them getting interceptions and things like that. Even if you're beat on the play and you're having to tackle the guy from behind, how about you punch that ball out and force a turnover that way to turn a positive play for the opposing team into a really negative one? So I love the fact that we're working on all of the little things as well, like, panic situations. Oh no, this guy beat me. Let me just go knock the ball out rather than just a random tackle on his legs. You know what I'm saying? That could be a game-changing play right there. Thank you, Joe Wood Jr. And shouts out to Quan Martin for taking to the coaching very well. But speaking of taking to the coaching, Joe Wood Jr. said that there was a brief moment last offseason that Quan Martin was with the second team because he was making too many mistakes in practice. And I vaguely remember last year, like, whoa, Quan Martin is not out there with the starters. Is there something to that? Now, they never told us last year, but now Joe Wood Jr. is admitting a year later that Quan Martin was purposely with the second team, and that's where they felt like he was depth chart wise. That's very telling. But then he said that Quan Martin impressed over the next 3 practices and kept it up, and he said, quote, the kid has the potential to be one of the better safeties in the league, unquote. And I feel like that's also a huge compliment to Quan Martin. He was humbled. They felt like he wasn't playing as a starting safety, and then he went out there and bounced back and proved I deserve to be a starting safety. And not only a starting safety, but one of the better safeties in the NFL. I love the fact that he's made up like that. You know, a lot of people, you know, he goes from starter in 2023, new coaching staff comes in, they're like, you're not playing like a starter right now. You're second string safety. A lot of guys would take that and be down on themselves, would lose confidence. Quan Martin, if anything, responded to that by getting even better, locking in even more. And you saw the season he had last year, especially the playoff run that he had with 2 separated shoulders, mind you. And then Joe Wood Jr. also said that Quan Martin is stepping up and taking a leadership role in terms of communication. I love to hear that. He said that Payne and Quan Martin are the leaders of the defense along with Bobby Wagner and Frankie Luvu. Quan Martin is in the same breath as Bobby Wagner, Frankie Luvu, and Payne as far as leaders of this defense. That is insane stuff right there, man. That's how serious Quan Martin is taking this. And shouts out to All Galdi. He brings up good points. He says, what has come out about Quan Martin is crazy. Played much of last season with not 1, but 2 separated shoulders, and yet played on 87.1% of the regular season defensive snaps and 92.6% of the postseason defensive snaps, and played special teams as well. High praise from Joe Wood Jr. today. Well deserved. This guy played 90-something% of snaps for us last year with 2 separated shoulders. Imagine how good he's going to be this upcoming season when he has both of his shoulders healthy. Just like Marshawn Lattimore, once he finally has both of his healthy hamstrings, imagine what Quan Martin's going to be with 2 healthy shoulders after what he did last year with no healthy shoulders. And then also, before we leave the safety group, and really this is the end of the video, Joe Wood Jr. even had high praise for Jeremy Reaves. He said, quote, he's our special teams ace. We all know that. But I have to find a role for him on defense because he just makes plays, unquote. And that is interesting because, you know, even when Jeremy Reaves has made plays as a safety on defense, me as Rico of StreetScores just looks at him as a special teams ace, a guy that just goes in and balls out on special teams, but I don't necessarily want him playing on the back end for our defense in real regular season and postseason games. Well, Joe Wood Jr. is like, hey, man, in practice, this guy just keeps making plays, and I know he's pretty far on the safety depth chart, but we may have to figure something out because, I mean, we love turnovers. We love guys that make plays. You know, the scheme can be one thing, following the scheme is another thing, and things like that, but a guy that can just go out there and deviate from the play call and just make a play, to be a playmaker. You know, when the offense is right, make them wrong. When the defense is wrong, make them right. You know, that type of stuff. If Jeremy Reaves seems to be a guy that's just magnetizing to those types of plays, Joe Wood Jr. really feels like, hey, man, we may have to get this guy on the field some way or how. Not just as special teams, but as an actual safety. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel everything discussed in the video. Please stick on that like button, stick on the subscription button, stick on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in the video. And as promised, of course, I have the trivia answer for you after the trivia question that I asked you before the intro. Tressway was the oldest player on our 2022 roster. That's actually pretty crazy, man, because that was a couple of years ago. So that was just a pretty young team just in general. Even though Tressway is up there in age, that's still a pretty young team, especially now that people are, you know, making jokes about us being one of the older teams in the NFL. But it's cool, man. We about to go win the Super Bowl anyway. But either way, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything, man. I mean, there were a lot of things that we discussed in this video. Javon Kinlaw, Payne, Jordan Magee, Quan Martin, and even Jeremy Reaves' breakout years. Trey Amos already ahead of schedule. As far as his development and his transition from college to the NFL. Josh Conley, your starting right tackle. Brandon Coleman, your starting left guard with clips to prove improve it. Laramie Tunsil working out, just not with the team. I mean, how do you feel about everything? That Joe Wood Jr., we're trying to figure out Kane Madrano. Is he more of a Jeremy Chin or a Frankie Luvu? Safety or linebacker? Javon Kinlaw, pass rush. We didn't go get any elite talent because we feel like we have enough here through scheme and the players that we already added. You know, all of this stuff, man. The wide receiver room. Is Luke McCaffrey not one of our 5 or 6 best receivers? I mean, there's so many things to discuss. Can't wait to see how y'all feel in the comment section. So let me know that. And of course, make sure you leave a like on the way out. Really appreciate y'all. I'm going to catch y'all later. And stay tuned for any other Commanders updates. I'm out.